Let's now take a look at disjunctions. First solve the first inequality for x and check the answer that you get. And then solve the second inequality for x and check that answer separately based on those values. So let's take a look at that example. The first inequality we were given is x minus 3 is greater than 5. So step 1, solve the first inequality for x. So we want to remove the constant by adding 3 to both sides, leaving us with x is greater than 8 as our answer. Step 2, check the answer by plugging two numbers into the original inequality. So since x has to be greater than 8, we could test this by plugging in 8 and then a larger number, which would be 9. When we plug in 8 for x, 8 minus 3 is 5, and 5 is not larger than 5. So we wind up with a false statement, as we were expecting. If we plug in a value larger than 8, such as 9, 9 minus 3 is 6, and we see that 6 is larger than 5, which is true, so this is correct. We then go to the second inequality that they gave us. X plus 4 is less than or equal to negative 2. So the third step to solving the disjunction is to solve the second inequality for x. So how do we solve for x? By subtracting 4. It's leaving us with x is less than or equal to negative 6. And then we check this answer by plugging two numbers into the original inequality. So since x is less than or equal to negative 6, we can plug in negative 6, which should work. And we should plug in negative 5. That should not work since it's not less than negative 6. When we plug in negative 6 for x, negative 6 plus 4 is negative 2. Negative 2 is less than or equal to negative 2, so that is true. Negative 5 plus 4 is negative 1, leaving us with the false statement. Negative 1 is less than negative 2. That's not true, it's greater than. So that shows that this answer is correct as well. So again, when you are solving disjunctions, solve the first inequality for x and check that answer based on the inequality that you get, and then solve the second inequality you're given, and then check that answer separately. Let's do a few practice questions. Solve for x and check the answers. Question number 1, x minus 4 is greater than 10, or x plus 1 is less than negative 7. Question number 2, negative 2x minus 4 is less than negative 8, or negative 3x plus 6 is greater than or equal to 18. And question number 3, 2x plus 9 is less than negative 13, or negative 3x minus 4 is greater than 14. Pause the video, solve these questions, and then press play when you are ready. Question number 1. Step 1. Solve the first inequality for x. The first inequality is x minus 4 is greater than 10. So for solving for x, we want to remove the constant, negative 4, by adding 4 to both sides, leaving us with x is greater than 10 plus 4, which is 14. Step 2, check this answer by plugging two numbers into the original inequality. Since x is greater than 14, we want to test 14, which should not work, and then a number larger than 14, which would be 15. Plug 14 in for x. 14 minus 4 will give us 10, leaving us with a false statement. 10 is greater than 10, so that does not work. 15 minus 4 is 11, and that does work since 11 is greater than 10. Then you go ahead and solve the second inequality for x. X plus 1 is less than negative 7, so we subtract 1 from both sides to isolate x, leaving you with x is less than negative 7 minus 1, which is negative 8. Check the answer by plugging two numbers into the original inequality. Since x is less than negative 8, negative 9 should work. Negative 9 plus 1 is negative 8, and negative 8 is less than negative 7. So then we plug in negative 8, and that should not work since they cannot be equal. Negative 8 plus 1 is negative 7, and negative 7 is not less than negative 7. So those are our answers to question number 1. Question number 2, step 1, solve the first inequality for x. So we start off by adding 4 to both sides, leaving us with negative 2x on the left side. Negative 8 plus 4 is negative 4 on the right side. We want to remove the coefficient negative 2, so we divide both sides by negative 2, leaving us with x on one side. Negative 4 divided by negative 2 is 2. And since we are dividing by a negative number, we reverse the sign in the middle from less than to greater than. So the answer to the first inequality in question number 2 is x is greater than 2. And then we check the answer by plugging two numbers into the original inequality. So since x must be greater than 2, we can test 2 to make sure that that does not work. And then we can test 3 to make sure that that does work, since 3 is greater than 2. So when we plug in 2 for x, we get negative 2 times 2, which is negative 4. Negative 4 minus 4 is negative 8, leaving us with a false statement. Negative 8 is less than negative 8. So as we see, 2 does not work. We get negative 2 times 3, which is negative 6. Negative 6 minus 4 is negative 10, leaving us with the true statement, negative 10 is less than negative 8. So this inequality is true. So x is greater than 2 is the first answer to question number 2. And then the second part to our answer comes by solving and checking the second inequality. Negative 3x plus 6 is greater than or equal to 18. So step 3 is to solve this inequality for x. So we start by removing the constant, positive 6, by subtracting 6 from both sides, leaving us with negative 3x on the left side, 18 minus 6, which is 12 on the right side. We then remove the coefficient negative 3 by dividing both sides by negative 3, leaving us with x on the left, 12 divided by negative 3, which is negative 4 on the right side. And again, since we are dividing by a negative number, we must reverse the sign in the middle from greater than to less than. So the final answer to the second inequality of question number 2 is x is less than or equal to negative 4. And we check this inequality the same way we did the previous ones. So we want to plug in two numbers into the original inequality. Since we have x is less than or equal to negative 4, we want to plug in negative 4, since that should work. And then we want to plug in a value that should not work, which should be negative 3. Negative 3 is larger than negative 4, not smaller. So when we plug in negative 4, for x, we get negative 3 times negative 4, which is positive 12. 12 plus 6 is 18. And 18 is greater than or equal to 18. And then when we plug in negative 3 times negative 3 is 9. 9 plus 6 is 15, leaving us with the false statement, 15 is greater than or equal to 18. So we did confirm that this is the correct answer to the second part of question number 2. X is less than or equal to negative 4. And then lastly, question number 3. We solved this question the same way we did the previous 2. Step 1, solve the first inequality for x. 2x plus 9 is less than negative 13. So you first remove the constant on the same side as your variable, which is positive 9. You negate it by subtracting 9 from both sides, leaving us with 2x is less than negative 22. We remove the coefficient 2 by dividing both sides by 2, leaving us with x is less than negative 11. We check the answer by plugging two numbers into the original inequality. Negative 12 is less than negative 11, so that should work. 2 times negative 12 is negative 24. Negative 24 plus 9 is negative 15, leaving us with the true statement. Negative 15 is less than negative 13. Negative 11 should not work. 2 times negative 11 is negative 22. Negative 22 plus 9 is negative 13. So that shows that x cannot equal negative 11. Since we wind up with the false statement, negative 13 is less than negative 13. So that is the answer to the first part of question number 3. The answer would be x is less than negative 11. Now let's take a look at the second inequality from question number 3. Negative 3x minus 4 is greater than 14. So we want to solve this inequality for x. So we first add 4 to both sides, leaving us with negative 3x on the left side. 14 plus 4 is 18 on the right side. To negate this coefficient of negative 3, we want to divide both sides by negative 3, leaving us with x on the left. 18 divided by negative 3 is negative 6 on the right. And since we are dividing by a negative number, we reverse the sign from greater than to less than. So the answer to the second inequality is x is less than negative 6. And we check this by plugging two numbers into the original inequality. Negative 7 is less than negative 6, so that should work. And then we can plug in negative 6, which should not work. When we plug in negative 7, negative 3 times negative 7 is 21. 21 minus 4 is 17, leaving us with the true statement, 17 is greater than 14. If we plug in negative 6, negative 3 times negative 6 is positive 18. 18 minus 4 is 14. And we wind up with the false statement, 14 is greater than 14. So that confirms that the answer to the second inequality in question number 3 was x is less than negative 6.